Ahead, I'll talk with Juliette Fay about her novel, The Harvey Girls. We'll learn about the plot of the book and the history of the real-life Harvey Girls, who defined hospitality along the Sante Fe railway line in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Hi, I'm Dan Skinner, and this is Some Books Considered. Juliette Fay is the best-selling author of 8 novels, including City of Flickering Light and the USA Today bestseller, The Tumbling Turner Sisters. She joins us to talk about The Harvey Girls. Juliette, welcome to Some Books Considered.
It's wonderful to be here, Dan.
Well, before we talk about your novel, let's talk about The Harvey Girls, because that's what this novel is based on. So, who were the Harvey Girls?
So the Harvey Girls were waitresses along the Sante Fe Railroad in the Southwest. And a man named Fred Harvey figured out that if he were to set up restaurants, nice restaurants at the stops along the way, passengers would be much happier and the Sante Fe Railroad would do much better. Prior to that, about every 100 miles or so, steam engines stopped for coal and water, and little rustic stands cropped up at those little stops. At best, the food was simple. At worst, it resulted in death by food poisoning. So Fred Harvey came in and he set up these restaurants. And for a respectable restaurant in the late 1800s, you had waiters, not waitresses. Waitresses were considered as sort of a step up from saloon girls. His problem was that his male waiters tended to get drunk and get into fights. So one of his managers said, why don't we hire women? And he said, I'll give that a try, but we can't call them waitresses. We're going to call them Harvey Girls. He dressed them sort of like nuns. They had strict rules for comportment. They had to, behave properly at all times or risk termination. They lived in dorms with strict curfews, and they worked 6 days a week, sometimes 12 hours a day at the restaurants. But it was they were paid well and they were treated well, and it was a very good job for women in those days.
And based on your research, what did you learn about the training that they had to go through to become a Harvey Girl?
Well, Fred Harvey was a real stickler. He had to have everything be absolutely perfect. So they would start their training in Topeka, which was where his first restaurant opened. They would get 30 days of training, no pay. They would get tips, but no pay. And then they would be sent out on the line, which was, to any one of 80 other Harvey houses throughout the Southwest. And depending on how good they were, it depended on whether they got a good, fun place to be or somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
So, as you mentioned, this was a good job for women of that time because opportunities were limited. So, besides just getting paid, what were the benefits of being a Harvey Girl?
So the pay was good. In 1926, when this novel is set, they were getting about $25 a month on top of free room and board and also tips. The tips often equaled what you were getting paid. So these young women were bringing in $50 a month with no expenses. That was quite something for them. A lot of them sent that money home and they became important breadwinners in the family. But beyond that, it was quite an adventure. About 50% of all Harvey Girls came from the Midwest. They were farm girls with little education and not much hope of making it off the farm. Suddenly, they're in a new place. They're allowed to travel. Women in those days didn't travel without a chaperone or a male, a husband or family member. But Harvey Girls traveling was okay. They got vacation time and could travel anywhere on the Southwest, on the Sante Fe Railroad for nothing, for free, and stay in Harvey Girl dorms and eat for free. So it was quite a sense of adventure and a sense of agency over their own lives. They had money. They didn't have to get married right away to have a man to support them, and they had freedom.
So your book is set in the 1920s, but how long was the span of the Harvey Girls and those Harvey restaurants?
So Fred opened up his first restaurant in Topeka in 1876. The company was sold in the 1960s, so it was about 80 years. In that time, 100,000 women became Harvey Girls. Many of them chose to stay in the Southwest. And one of the interesting things about the Southwest was it was mostly men. It was 2-to-1, male to female. Many of these guys were prospectors or ranchers or railroad men. About half of those 100,000 women chose to stay, married. Many of them named their boy babies Fred or Harvey after their boss. And Fred Harvey is credited with populating the Southwest because of this influx of women.
Interesting. I never thought of that angle of it.
Ah.
So the Harvey Girls was a unique experience. So let's talk about the plot of your book, because it's set in the 20s and it's about these Harvey Girls. So tell us about what readers are going to find here.
Sure. There are two main characters. Charlotte is from Boston, a very wealthy family. She was in college and decided to elope with one of her college professors. This turns out to be a very bad decision. He is not a good guy. And she decides she can't go back to her family. They've basically disowned her. She decides she needs to go on the run. And one of the things that was very interesting to me when I was doing all this research and learning about Harvey Girls is that there was a certain subset of women who were running away from something, an abusive family life or poverty. And then we have Billy, who is 15 years old. Harvey Girls had to be 18 years old. But she's the oldest of 9 children in a family. Her parents are Scottish immigrants, and they need the money. So she lies about her age to become a Harvey Girl. She's very homesick. And she's a poor girl without much education, 6th grade education. She and Charlotte do not like each other. They come from very different sides of the track. And they both have a secret. Being married was also not okay to become a Harvey Girl. So they both have a secret that can get them fired. And they have to band together, despite the fact that they are very different and don't really like each other.
So since this is set in the 20s, in this world of the Harvey Girls, as you mentioned, you did a lot of research so that as you describe what these women went through, their living conditions, etc., those details would ring true. What surprised you the most as you were doing this research?
Oh, so many things surprised me. I thought it was such a fascinating time. One of the things that was very interesting about Fred Harvey is that he treated his employees, his female employees, with great respect. In both the hiring and the promotion. He was such a stickler. He didn't believe that anybody could be trained properly anywhere else. He wanted to hire people with no experience. And because of that, he often promoted from within. So these young women sometimes became assistant managers or managers of restaurants, which was unheard of at the time. His head of personnel for the entire company, all 80 Harvey Houses, was a woman. His head architect was also a woman. And these were two of the highest ranking women in corporate America of their day. And they both worked at the same company.
So Fred Harvey was sort of ahead of his time.
He was. And it's funny, I don't know that he was so pro women. I think he wanted to hire the best people, and he was willing to sort of go outside of the norms to make sure that he got what he wanted.
So back to your novel, you have these two characters that are very different. They initially, at least, do not like each other. They have secrets to hide. What else is going on in this novel?
Well, I decided that, once the girls are trained in Topeka, they go out on the line, and I decided to send them to the Grand Canyon because for a couple of reasons. One, it was a really cool little Harvey community. There weren't a lot of, it was mostly tourists. So it becomes a little town in and of itself for the Harvey community and the park rangers and the railroad people. I really liked that. I also loved the beautiful setting, of course, of the Grand Canyon. And I will admit, my sister lives in Flagstaff, so it was very easy for me to visit her and then pop up and do research. And what I was surprised to find out was in the creation of the park that they really cleared out the Native American tribes that were living there, had lived there for 1,000 years. And that was something I didn't expect. I did not know that about the creation of the Grand Canyon. And so there is a thread about the tribes that are there. Fred Harvey had decided to, instead of sort of pretending that the Native Americans didn't exist, he created opportunities for them to sell their wares and their arts, which they were very incredible artists, which was good for the tribes, but it was also a little bit of a mixed bag. It was, it changed their culture being, exposed to white Americans. And so that is a thread when they do go to the Grand Canyon. It was very interesting to learn about that.
Well, you mentioned that they were not supposed to be married to be a Harvey girl, but yet at the same time, a lot of the Harvey girls went on to become married. So did Fred Harvey lose a lot of employees to men that would be attracted to these Harvey girls as they were traveling about the country?
I'm sure he did, but there were so many girls who wanted to be Harvey girls. It was a good gig. So I don't think it was that much of a problem. And some of these women, once they had done their year, their first year, they were allowed to get married. And some of them did remain with Harvey Company for many years. It was very interesting to learn how long these employees stuck with the Fred Harvey Company because they felt they were treated well.
What would you say are some of the themes that this novel explores?
One of the themes is certainly found friendship. These two young women sort of band together, and at the Grand Canyon, they pull other people who have their own stories into their circle. And so it's this sort of family that's created out of friendship. I think it's also about that time period and women learning, to have agency over their own lives and have some fun and have some adventure. And it's also about sort of what the natural world around them and how that impacted them.
As you mentioned, this is fiction, of course, but it's based on the real life Harvey girls. So beyond being an engaging read, do you hope readers are going to come away with sort of a new appreciation of that time and who the Harvey girls were?
Absolutely. It's interesting to me. I mean, once I started learning about them, I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. Why did I never know about this? And most people don't. It's a little, sort of era that's mostly lost to history. And it was very interesting. So I do think that readers will get a kick out of learning about this little subculture of the Harvey world. And along the way, also getting a good story.
There's a question I like to ask authors of fiction, and it's this. If you could spend a day in real life with one of the characters from your novel, who would it be and why?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one. That's a good question, Dan. I'm going to say probably Charlotte. Charlotte is a pretty complex character. She's got a lot going on, and she's learning so much. She's got to be on the other side of the apron, as it were. And she's got kind of a quick wit, and I think I would enjoy that. But I would enjoy spending time with any of them. And I did, as I wrote them.
So what's next for you?
I have one in the works. It's contemporary fiction. And of course, my mind is always churning on what I'll do next. And so I got a couple ideas for what the next novel will be, and possibly historical. We'll see. I do like that time period of the 1920s.
The novel is The Harvey Girls by Juliette Fay. Juliette, thank you for talking with me today.
It's been a pleasure, Dan. Thanks for having me on.
If you'd like to purchase The Harvey Girls, I've placed a link for you in the description below. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe, like, and click on the bell so you know when I post new interviews. Meanwhile, here are 2 more books you might find interesting. I'm Dan Skinner. Thank you for watching this edition of Some Books Considered.